The Federal Reserve today signaled it could raise interest rates in the future sooner than planned as the economic recovery picks up steam. The central bank also increased its forecast for inflation this year, with prices rising across the economy and everything from food to rental cars to even furniture. But policymakers and businesses are debating if Americans should get used to paying higher prices or if inflation will only be temporary as the economy reopens. ABC's Elizabeth Schulze has more.
On the produce side of
Philip Samble is no stranger to the changing price of food.
On these signs, how often are you changing those numbers?
These are laminated, wipeable signs because we're changing them every single time we get a delivery.
He says lately at his small grocery store in Washington, D.C., most prices are going in one direction, up. The government's Consumer Price Index, or CPI, shows food prices increased 2.2% in May compared to a year before. Whole milk prices were up more than 3% in just 1 month. Fish and beef prices rose more than 2%.
So price of bacon, for example, have you had to change the number there in the past few months?
Yeah, that's definitely gone up.
It's not just food costs going up. The CPI data shows overall prices rose 5% in May from a year earlier, the fastest pace since August 2008, with gains in categories ranging from cars to apparel to appliances and equipment.
I can't think of a single building material that hasn't gone up.
Omar Kareem is the CEO of a real estate and construction company.
For a sheet of plywood, last year, 12 months ago, it was $34. Now you're talking about north of $80. So over 100% increase in 12 months, which is, really unconscionable.
With American businesses and consumers now paying more money for goods and services, a debate is raging among economists and policymakers about if higher inflation is here to stay.
We're not talking about a couple of quarters of inflation. We're talking about policies that could have that extend into next year and years beyond.
Republican lawmakers say trillions of dollars in economic stimulus is supercharging consumer spending, leading to higher prices. It's a concern echoed by former Treasury Secretary under President Clinton, Larry Summers, who says the primary risk to the U.S. economy is overheating and inflation. But the current Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, along with Federal Reserve Chairman Jay Powell, insists the current run-up in prices is only temporary.
If you look behind the headline numbers, you'll see that the incoming data are consistent with the view that the prices that are driving that higher inflation are from categories that are being directly affected by the recovery from the pandemic and the reopening of the economy.
Powell says it's not surprising to see price hikes in industries like airlines or hotels that came to a standstill when the pandemic hit and are now bouncing back as vaccinations and travel ramp up.
We, kind of went into panic mode.
Daphne Penn and her husband are moving from Peoria, Illinois to Philadelphia this summer and had planned a last-minute trip to visit apartments.
We got the flights, no issue. But later in the evening, when we went to book a rental car, they were all gone. Everything was sold out. So we ended up having to cancel the trip.
She says moving costs are also rising.
I looked at an estimate for U-Haul U-Box, and I think it was going to be about $1,500 or $1,600. That's about maybe $400 more than what I had paid in the past.
From freight to rental cars to furniture, many industries haven't been able to keep up with pent-up demand. And the boom in spending fueled at least in part by those stimulus checks.
People got a lot of money all at one time, and the economy wasn't ready to make everything that people wanted. And so you've seen prices go up.
Backlogs in supply chains during the pandemic are another factor behind higher prices. A global shortage of computer chips has slowed down the production of new cars, leading used car and truck prices to spike nearly 30% in the past year.
These prices have gone up astronomically. Can this continue in an area like used cars?
No, I think the places where the prices have gone up the most, they're probably actually going to come back down.
Many economists expect prices will drop after this year as economic stimulus starts to wear off, the economy fully reopens, and supply chains readjust.
We've seen really that people put the pedal to the metal. Really gas it up over the last 12 months.
Omar Kareem says after a surge in demand for construction and building materials over the past year, he's starting to see some prices drop.
Hopefully by the end of the summer, we will be back in a normal place. There's just no way a lumber or a piece of plywood can continue to increase. It's one piece of plywood. My God, projects ultimately will have to stop.
But there are signs higher inflation might not be temporary. One is that wages are going up.
Once you have higher wages, yes, that often gets passed on to higher prices.
Chipotle, for example, raised menu prices after it announced wage hikes. And if businesses or workers start to expect higher prices in the future, it can actually create more inflation.
If you think prices are going to rise a lot, you might actually raise prices. You might ask for a larger raise. If you think they're not going to, you won't do that. And so there's a certain self-fulfilling prophecy that comes out of inflation expectations.
Philip Samble says consumers should be prepared to pay higher prices if it means raising workers' wages.
All along the supply chain, I mean, you see agricultural workers, warehouse workers, delivery drivers, retail workers, all were underpaid before the pandemic. We're able in this moment to say, hey, we're valuable, we're essential.
So how long do you think these high grocery prices are going to last?
I think that once the prices are elevated and really more of a true cost accounting of the food that we're eating, those prices are very unlikely to go back down. So I think they're here to stay.
Elizabeth Schulze, ABC News, Washington.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.